My name's Dale Richardson, and I'm a mechanical engineering technologist with a Bachelor of Technology, majoring in engineering and applied sciences. And I mean, I decided to come and do this because of a lot of stuff that was going on. But that's really my background and my experience. I'm definitely not a politician.
All right. So what are your reasons for running in the Battlefords? You're
Sorry,
muted.
yeah. My reason for running in the Battlefords is because I saw firsthand the corruption. I uncovered a method of effectively spreading disease rather than mitigating it during the COVID pandemic response. Essentially, it helped deliver biological weapons, right? COVID was done from gain of function. It doesn't matter whether it's a naturally occurring disease or if it's, man-made. If you help spread disease, you're doing something wrong. And so I decided that I needed to stop this and faced a lot of corruption personally. My family got destroyed. I was destroyed financially and everything else like that. And I took, every possible step going up to the Supreme Court of Canada multiple times. I think probably 12 or 13 times. Supreme Court of the United States, I think a few times as well, and nobody would do anything. So I said, well, then I guess I just have to run for politics to go and sort this thing out because no one did anything right. If it was happening to me, it's definitely happening to other people. Don't want anybody else to go through this, so I decided to run.
Okay, thank you. So you have seen families struggle in your constituency and elsewhere. Why are families struggling right now? And what would you do if elected to help preserve families?
Families are struggling right now because of a lot of the policies that were implemented by the government, and they came in en masse during the COVID pandemic response. And I actually looked at the lessons learned that they had from the SARS outbreak in 2002, and they knew that the lockdowns were going to financially devastate people, and they did it anyway. And so we had a lot of interference that destroyed our economy, and we need to rebuild it. And I think that ensuring that we have people that can afford their basic necessities is the first step forward. So we need to stop all of these measures that are destructive, and then start rebuilding our economy by bringing manufacturing, like my background in engineering and so forth, dealing with systems and manufacturing. I understand a lot of how this works, and a lot of the government policies that they're using right now are never going to work. And so we need to go back to keeping it simple, bringing it back to a local level, making sure that the rights of the parents are respected and keeping the family structures because that is the best way to build a society. So make sure that we stop the destructive policies like that we had from the COVID pandemic response and so forth, and that we're continuing on forward. Get rid of all of those, and then go back to bringing jobs here and promoting things to promote families, strengthen them, so that they will have the right kind of people with the mindset to fill those jobs.
Right on. So can you actually discuss the importance of bringing back local industry and businesses to the Battlefords and Saskatchewan?
Absolutely. When you begin to um, use this globalization and you look at the cost of fuel and all these things right now, they're actually driving costs up. If you can produce it locally, then it actually will shorten your lead times for actually manufacturing. So if you have everything being produced in a local area that makes sense to you, you can actually increase productivity, lower costs because it's right in your area. You're not dependent on weather and all of these things because they're right there. You're going to get a better quality of product because you're more accountable to the people that you live next to, not somebody halfway across the world. And if there's an issue with it, then you go back to the person and they get it fixed right away. You're going to have far more productivity. You're going to have higher quality of product, and then you're going to stimulate the local economy, which is win for everybody, right? So we need to go back to these things.
All right. So, can you actually talk about the issue of provincial jurisdiction and law enforcement?
Yes, absolutely. You see, law enforcement under our Constitution, on and it's separated into two parts. We have the 1867 section, and then we have the 1982, which is the charter, which most people are aware of. In the 1867, which came from the British North America Act, on Article 6, Section 92, subsection 14, gives the administration of justice is the exclusive under the exclusive control of the Legislative Assembly of each province. So when we have law enforcement, that means we have to have law enforcement that is completely controlled by the province of Saskatchewan. Currently, we do not have that when we have the RCMP here in Saskatchewan. Because if you go to Part 7, Section 52, subsection 1 of the Constitution Act 1982, which is the Charter, the Supremacy Clause says that anything that's in violation of any part of the Constitution is of no force. So because the RCMP is contracted through the province, and when you have a problem with the RCMP, you have to go through Ottawa and not Regina, then you don't have exclusive control of the RCMP. And so in essence, you have a police force that you can't control. And the Civilian Review and Complaints Commission is actually not an effective means to deal with the RCMP. They cannot restrain them from breaking the law. So if they don't want to stop a member from breaking the law, nobody can. And that is against the Constitution. And right now we have operating in the province of Saskatchewan a lawless organization based on the plain reading of the Supremacy Clause in the Charter. And we have to rectify that. And it's been that way and brought to the attention of the current government, and they are doing nothing. So they're sanctioning a lawless organization within the province of Saskatchewan, and we want our law enforcement operating within the bounds of the law. This has to happen.
So, now what reforms do you think are required in our justice system?
Oh, we need a lot of reform. We need to make sure that, for one, that the judges are going to only apply the law, because a lot of the times the judges are interpreting the law and creating law through case law and all of these things. Case law is designed to help you look at the decisions that people were making based on the application of the law. They're not designed to create laws, which is what's happening. And the law is the supreme law of the land is our charter and our constitution, which the two parts of it are considered the Canadian Constitution. The law that comes after it has to line up with that. And then any decision has to line up with both the law and the Constitution. And this is the way this is supposed to work. We're seeing a lot of lawlessness that is happening within the judicial system, and that doctrine of judicial immunity, it cannot continue because they're hiding behind it to commit crime. And so we have to go back to having a standard of law that applies to everyone, including judges. And if a judge uses his position to break the law, he gets arrested. If a police officer uses his position to break the law, he gets arrested. And in fact, they should have higher penalties by virtue of their position, because they are to administer the law and to give justice to people. And if you have corruption in the justice system, you will have no law in for anybody. And we want one rule of law for everyone. That is the way the laws are supposed to work. And so we have to have that. We need to clean out all of the people who have been working against the people. We need to go to a model where we have elected sheriffs and or elected law enforcement or whatever in your communities that answer to your community, so that if they do something wrong, you have the opportunity to remove them, not to have some bureaucrat controlling this. The power has to rest in the hands of the people.
Mm. Do you believe that the media has been silent about the crimes and corruption by the current government? And if so, what effect has this silence had on the voters?
100% I actually know this because I've given some of the media evidence of crime, clear-cut crime, fraud that was taking place in the courts. And these things were happening under Scott Moe's watch. I also gave them copies of my engineering report, and actually the book that I based this latest report on was taken out to the Frankfurt book fair, which is the largest in the world, this last week. So when I point out such obvious crimes and showing how biological weapons were being distributed and can easily be distributed, which is connected to the ones that were handed over to the Chinese nationals at the Winnipeg Biolab that the RCMP escorted the Chinese out of, that's treason. Now, this was given to the media and the fraud, where it was clear cut fraud. Every person that I showed this to were like getting angry that this was taking place in their courts. And this was given to Scott Moe, and this was given to my opponent, Jeremy Cockrell. And it was also given to the media, and the media stayed silent on it. Now, if the media accurately reported that he was given clear cut evidence of fraud, someone else signing his me to try to steal my house that I was living in, that is something that the government should not be sanctioning. And if this was brought out, no one would vote for a party that would allow their house and property to be stolen. Because actually, Saskatchewan is the hardest place to commit mortgage fraud in the country because the government guarantees your title. So if the government is involved in fraud because they had to in order to do this, no one will vote for that government because if it can happen to me, it would happen to anyone else.
In that case, would you say that voters are somewhat apathetic because of a lack of viable candidates?
Yes, this was actually something that I discussed. I was out talking to voters a lot this week because I was shut out from certain areas in order to reach people. So I went to the people directly. And when I spoke to the people, every single one of them said, a lot of them said, I don't even know who to vote for. Some said, I'm going to vote for NDP because I'm sick of Mo. So a lot of them said, I don't even want to vote because there's no good viable options. And people were not aware of the Buffalo Party. When I began to talk to them about what the Buffalo Party stood for and why I was running, every one of them was like, either I will seriously consider this or I will vote for you and I will support the Buffalo Party because these are things that the people want, but they're not being given any options.
So thank you then for those for your contributions today, Dale, also my father. Any final comments you would care to make?
Yeah, like I said, I understand this personally. I'm not a politician. Like I loathe the idea of being a politician. If you asked any of my friends 20 years ago or even 10 years ago that if I would be in politics, they'd be like when hell froze over. But I want to fix them because I see this injustice and I see a lot of cowardice, right? And I'm a father. My family was completely shattered, and I don't want this to happen to anyone else. And I want to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and that the rights of children are protected, the rights of families are protected, the right for people to earn income without government interference is protected, and that people can have religious freedom. You should be free to do what you want as long as you are not committing crime. Then you should be. I don't have to like what you're doing. It just doesn't have to be a crime, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. And I want people to have their freedom without the government meddling in their lives. And after that, I will get out of politics and go about my business so I can go back to building stuff and raising my family.